everybody. Welcome to a bonus episode of Simple Art at Home with me, Laura Houston. Today I'm going to show you two different art project options. And before we start, let's take a look at this sheet right here that probably looks familiar to you. You might have seen this in the activities that you were doing earlier today. You've been talking about what can you do after high school and what particular strengths do you have that will help you choose your path in life. Okay, so I thought that you might like to see my path that I took. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so I wrote this down for you. So right after high school, I went directly to UC Irvine, and it's also called University of California at Irvine, and I was a studio art major. I got my bachelor's degree, and it took 4 years. And then directly after I graduated from UC Irvine, I enrolled in Cal Poly Pomona for my teaching credential, and I earned a multiple subject teaching credential, and it took 1 year. At that point, I started teaching in Anaheim Elementary School District, and years later, I went back to college, back to the university to earn my master's degree, and a master's degree is generally 2 additional years. But just in case you wanted to be an art teacher or a teacher, I just wanted to share my path that I took. And then also, we are going to focus first on this drawing. And before we talk about it, I just want to show you the two differences here. This is a literal path. We call this literal art. And it's really obvious what it is, right? It's a t-shirt. I've written words all over it. I've listed my strengths. And in order to do this project, I actually started with a circle map, and on this circle map, I first brainstormed. I wrote down like well, obviously for me it's easier because I'm already a grown-up and I have my career, but if you want to do this art project, you're going to want to write down what your dream job would be or your career choice. I think it's important to list your best subject in school. What do you excel at? Something that you're good at in life. And I want you to think about your path after high school. What do you think? It's okay if you don't know, but just start thinking about it. What would you like to do? And then here, I thought it would be nice if you just drew a few icons or symbols that represent you, and I drew a heart and a butterfly. So let's take a look at a little movie that I made of painting this t-shirt project, and then I will talk a little bit about it. So let's take a look at that movie. So looking at this, what I did was I took the parts of the circle map and I put them on the t-shirt. So obviously I have a little drawing of myself here, and then I wrote my name using 1 point perspective. There's the point right there, and I'm going to show you how to do this, the same technique with this painting here. This sleeve says, I'm good at setting goals, both long-term and short-term goals. You can choose anything that you want. These are just my suggestions. Here I have my best school subjects. I couldn't choose one, so I put 2, writing and reading comprehension. And then down here, I already showed you my path after high school. UC Irvine, Cal Poly Pomona, and National University. And then here's this section here is where I wrote about my career choice or my dream job. Now yours is going to be, part of this will be, you're just going to be, wishing about your future or, thinking ahead. But the rest of this, this would be concrete of what's happening now. Okay, so I'm going to leave this literal piece of art on the table here while I show you. We're actually going to draw this one, but let me explain what figurative means. So figurative means it's more of, it's like a metaphor in poetry where you look at something and the viewer can get a different idea from it, but it's more for you. So if you are the artist creating this, this represents my path in life. And somebody else might look at this and get a different idea, but to me, I know that this represents me and my path in life, and we call that figurative. It's not obvious. It doesn't have words. It's not like a poster, but it's more of an idea. It's like a softer, more abstract idea. So I'm going to show you how to create this. So you're going to need a piece of paper. And again, you can choose whichever type of art you'd like to do. If the t-shirt style art looks fun to you, then go for it. I thought some of you might like to learn one-point perspective. So you're going to start by drawing a horizon line. So the horizon line is just going to go about around the middle of the page, about right here. And you're going to want to put a point on that line. Now, I'm going to just write right on my artwork. Let's see. I'm going to write the word horizon. You don't have to do this. Horizon line. That's this line. Horizon line is where the sky meets the earth. And then this right here, that one single point is called a vanishing point. And the whole idea here is called 1 point perspective. Okay. Those are just some new vocabulary words to help us. And so everything that I draw, all lines will go back to this 1 point. So I'm going to start with the path, and I'm going to draw it like this. Anything on a piece of art, as it recedes into the distance, it gets smaller or narrower. And then I'm also going to have some trees on either side of the path. So I'm still putting my pencil on the vanishing point. I'm going to make a soft line here. This will just be my guide. I will erase this later on. And here's another one. And then I also want some lines that go up here to show where the tops of the trees will go. So again, I'm going to start right at the vanishing point, and I think I'll make my trees go to about here, like this, and on this other side too. This is a trick that artists use to show depth or to show something look like it's going back into the distance. So we have a lot of lines here. Let me just start by outlining the path. This was the original path line that we started with. Okay, now I'm not going to draw the horizon line yet with black pen because I don't want it to be in front of the trees. I want the trees to be in front. So I'm going to start with the largest tree, and I'm going to just draw like a trunk right here, tree trunk, something like that. And I'll just do like a pine tree or a Christmas tree, and they kind of go something like this. It's like a winter forest type tree, something like that. And this is just a sketch drawing that I'm doing with you. Okay, and then I'll end up erasing that line because we want the tree to be in front of the horizon. There we go. And I can also erase that part right there. Okay, so now let's draw another tree that looks like it's going farther down the path. Now this tree is going to be smaller. So the top of the tree, notice how I had the top of the tree stop on that line that I drew? The other tree will start here, and it's going to be a little smaller. So I'm going to do a smaller trunk because things are smaller as they recede. And then I'm going to have it go like this. And it can kind of overlap if we want behind this other one. Something like that. Okay. There. And now I'm going to erase this horizon line. Okay, and maybe I'll just add a few details here like this to make it look like there's more branches. Again, I'm just doing a rough sketch, but you'll still get the idea of what's going on. Let me just make this one a little bit better. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So already you can see we have trees going back down the path here. Okay, I'll start with putting the trunk on this guideline. Okay, that's important because you have to keep the correct perspective, this 1-point perspective. And the top of the tree will go to this line, so maybe something like this. And then one more coming out here. You can make any trees that you want. They don't have to be pine trees. This is your art project. I'm just offering suggestions. I like the idea of a forest path because I think it sounds kind of relaxing. And then I'll just add some more little designs here, the idea of other little branches or patterns here. We can color the side. And then let's add one more small tree. So again, I'm going to make sure it's hitting this guideline next to the path, right on there. And the top of it will be here. And this will be smaller. Like you have to make it smaller so that you can tell that it's going back in the distance. So the trunk will be smaller. There. Okay. So there we have our guidelines, and notice the lines are all meeting at the same vanishing point right there. Now, we can add some mountains. How about that? So I'll just kind of put a mountain going from here, kind of down there, and maybe another one. And let's leave the mountains not blocking this path. So it looks like if you're walking, you can, walk through that path through the opening in the mountains. And then maybe we'll have one come down here like this. And then we can have another mountain. So you can kind of layer the mountains like that. Okay. And then let's finish by drawing in the horizon line here. There we go. Now it's taking shape, and it's going to make even more sense once I color everything in, because right now there's a lot of extra lines going on. But I'm just going to leave those there for the teaching tool part of it. And I'm just going to thicken these two trees that are in front because I want them to stand out since they're closest to the viewer. And that's a trick that you can do. You can use heavier line weight if you want to show that something is closer to the viewer. I like to keep two different kinds of pens handy, like a thicker pen and then a thin pen. There. And already it's kind of starting to pop out there. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same thing with this one. And it'll help the mountains look like they're off in the distance a little more. You can add flowers to your path and everything would just go back in the same way, like towards that same vanishing point. Notice I'm making this tree look like it's in front of the other little tree. You have to pay attention to all the lines. Okay, so then we have our two trees in front, and let's see. I'm I might add some lines on my path that kind of go towards that vanishing point. See how I'm doing that as well? I'm imagining this is a kind of a dirt path, and then it's kind of fun to add maybe that's some little grass or flowers growing around the base, the trunk of the trees. You could put a little flower if you want there, something like that. Sometimes you've got like little ferns that want to grow in the shade. It just adds interest to your drawing. Okay, and if you want to, you could put, you know, some pebbles. If you want to put some stones or some little marks. There we go. And again, anything that you do, it's going to be larger towards the bottom of the paper and get smaller. Like I'll just do little lines like this, little dots going back. Okay. Okay, I think we are ready for some paint. We're going to paint our figurative path. And this is like a figurative path in life. Not the literal path. I'm going to add some green to the trees here. Remember, if this is your art project, you can paint it however you want. You don't have to do natural colors. You can paint, you know, you can make it interesting. You can paint purple trees, whatever you want. Sometimes that makes art even more interesting, using your own color. I'm going to mix two different greens. And here, let's see. Okay, and on the trunk, maybe I'll just put brown like kind of on one side of the trunk. There. Okay, and we'll add more green. I like watercolors because they're a really fast way to paint, and you can do multiple. If you're just practicing, you can get quite a few paintings done rather quickly. If you just want to practice a lot of different paintings, especially if you're practicing one-point perspective. Notice the two different greens that I'm adding to the trees just add a little more interest, and you know, kind of adds to the look that they're not as flat. You can use crayons. Maybe you want to just use pen and ink, or maybe you just want to use pencil, or you don't have to paint it or add color. Maybe you're using oil pastels, you can do marking pens. So it's best if you do have some sort of a straight edge. If you don't have a ruler to do this, you know, books work really well. Just be careful not to damage the edge of the book, but I've used books before when I couldn't find my ruler. They make good straight edges. Okay, and then the path, this is just a dirt path. I'm gonna leave some white showing through it in some parts, just because I wanna make it look kind of rough, like it's outdoors. It's not perfect, right? And we can put a little like brown around here, and maybe a little more brown around the path. And then we can also add some green there. So I'm really curious to see, you know, what you choose to do. And if you send in pictures of your work, I will show it on my Simple Art at Home episodes. We have certain students who watch every week on Thursday and send me examples of their work. So I'm just coloring a few pieces here and there. Let's do the mountains. And I'm going to make my mountains kind of purple, just to add color. I don't want to do brown again because now obviously if you want to make yours perfect, you would erase that that guideline there, but it's still, this is still, I consider, a teaching tool. Like I'm showing you what those lines are. I don't want to erase them in case some students are still, you know, understanding and learning from them. Plus, I wrote words on my painting. So I'm just showing a suggestion of color here. Let's do this mountain over here. Maybe I'll add some darker purple in certain parts. Like I said, add mixed colors when you can. It dries and it looks more interesting when it dries. Watercolors, if you're using them, they always dry lighter too. Just so you know. Okay, why don't we add, I think we need a little more green or ground looking over here. The edges of the paper here. There we go. Maybe some there. I don't want too much. This is just a quick drawing. Okay, and how about some blue sky? Just along the top. We can fade it out as it gets lower towards the mountains. So I'll do it thicker. I add more paint at the top. And as it goes lower, I'll just drag more water into it and just thin it out so it kind of blends into the white of the paper, as you can see there. Okay, so I think for the most part, this one is understandable. So what I've done here is we started with the horizon line and we drew a vanishing point. And I used a ruler or a straight edge to draw 2 lines going back to that vanishing point. And then I did some more guidelines right here going to the same vanishing point, and it showed me where to put the tree trunks. And then I did 2 upper lines above the horizon going to the vanishing point, and that showed me where to stop the tops of the trees to help with the perspective. Because remember, larger objects are in the front, and as they go back, they get smaller into the distance, okay? And this is called 1-point perspective because we used 1 vanishing point. This is a figurative path in life, and this is an example of a literal path. And I hope that maybe you choose one of these, or maybe you're going to do your own art that's not even like either one of these. If you do, I hope you have fun, and please send me examples of your work. I love to see what you do. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.